Okay, so thanks to Shamriddhi for letting me talk in this meeting. So I really don't belong to this yeah, but I've been doing some work on something related to this, and I thought so what I'm going to talk about is it's really consists of very preliminary results. I mean, so don't expect too much. And what I really wanted to get is get some useful feedback from all the experts. Okay, so the basic question is, do thermal transport measurements show any signatures of a glass transition? And so this work is done with many people, Rituparno and Pranab, who are students at ISC. Who have been and Pinaki at IMSC. So they have been doing really all the hard work with Chandan at ISC. And okay, so this is the outline of my talk. I will give a very short introduction. I mean, people have heard a lot about glasses, and I have not much more to say. But so this basically I will be talking about heat transport in this particular model, which is a very well studied model of glasses, and I will then have some discussions. Okay, so I mean, I think this is a sort of sensible. I mean, I guess people will agree that this is an okay definition of a glass. It's something that does not thermalize. I mean, people talk of relaxation times diverging at some time, but I guess this is what it basically means. And so there is some problem in applying usual statistical physics ideas to glasses. Okay, so the inability to thermalize suggests that it is a poor conductor of heat, and this is actually true for many glasses that we see around. I mean, most glasses, like I think pieces of chalk here and glasses, and those are really bad conductors of heat, unlike crystals, which are much better conductors. Between okay, so yeah, so glasses and liquids, of course, and will have similar thermal, I mean, like conductivity. So in that sense, right? Yeah, but if I look at solid, I mean, like solids which are glasses and but made of the same material, then they are different, right? Yeah.
Metallic glasses who are
Metallic glasses are also bad conductors of heat. They are still bad conductors of heat. Right, yeah. Okay, but there is a problem with thermalization. That's what I am trying to.
Amophysically, not with thermalization. I would think. So, by condition of the talk, that there is no signature of the.
Yeah, it looks like there is no signature, but maybe it's not completely clear. Maybe okay, I know. Right, yeah.
In along those times,
okay, so for example, I mean, there is this problem of localization of electrons in disordered potentials and phonons in disordered harmonic potentials. I mean, so these are problems where you find a transition to something which is non-conducting and which also don't thermalize. So in that sense, and maybe one should call them also glasses. Okay, so the specific question that I am interested in is looking at thermal conductivity, and it looks like some questions that one can ask are the following. So actually this, I mean, this came up like couple of years back. There was a like a introductory talk by Hore Kurshan on what are glasses, and so in the talk I saw that mostly people were discussing viscosity. Okay, so that's one like transport quantity, and thermal conductivity is another transport quantity. So it's natural to, I thought, to ask whether it shows any signatures of during a glass transition. Okay. So basically the question is what is the typical temperature dependence of thermal conductivity. So kappa here is the thermal conductivity, and are there any features of transition when one measures kappa across whatever glass transition temperature there is. Okay. Then one can ask like, if I take a sample below the glass transition and wait for and measure its thermal conductivity, I wait for some time, measure its thermal conductivity, does one see signatures of aging? So so one can ask such questions. Okay, another very interesting question I think is that at very low temperatures, so these are like structural glasses, and here you can talk of the system is consists of particles with position and momenta, and in configurational space at what happens at so there is some potential energy landscape, and So there are like some 3n dimensional configurational energy landscape, and the system is evolving in this landscape. Okay, so at high temperatures it can sample all these different minimas, but at very low temperatures you can imagine that it gets stuck and it can't evolve out of, I mean it can get out of the minima. And then what one can do is one can basically try to look at properties around this minima, and then it's like looking at basically harmonic disordered harmonic network, and you can ask what are the properties of like with respect to the thermal transport for such a network. Okay, so in this context, I mean one sort of surprising question is that one can ask is actually for a disordered harmonic crystal, I mean do you get a finite thermal conductivity or not? Okay. So this I mean though it looks like if there is a strong disorder in a harmonic network, you should get it should have a finite thermal conductivity, but the answer is not obvious. Okay. So this I will show some examples of what I mean exactly I mean by this. So then one can ask, like if I look at different minimas, I mean how much does the thermal conductivity vary? Okay. So at low temperatures, when it's really frozen into one of these minimas, then it's a useful question to ask, and this is also something we want to look at. Okay, and then as you go towards around the transition temperature, you have these transitions between these minimas, and one can try to see if one can understand anything about the thermal conductivity. Okay. So let me just say something about like what I think are some of the interesting experimental questions that people typically ask about thermal conductivity in glasses. So so this is some experimental data on specific heat and thermal conductivity of crystalline and amorphous silicon dioxide. Okay. So so specific heat is of course a like equilibrium quantity. And so this is what so this is the glassy system, and this is the crystalline system. Okay, so specific heat is much higher in a glassy system, and it shows some peak which is known as the boson peak for some reason, and this is something people are interested in. And if you look at thermal conductivity, so this is glass and this is the crystal, same material silicon dioxide, but one is a crystal and one is glass, and you see a huge difference in thermal conductivity. Okay, and then there is a plateau here which occurs around the same position as this peak. Okay, and that is also something people have been are interested in trying, and there is a lot of work trying to understand this, and these are mostly heuristic and phenomenological.
I think that there is some I read somewhere that for glasses this will goes like t square.
Right, yeah. So this part goes as, so this goes as for a crystal is TQ and this is T square. Right, yeah.
Right?
There are some calculations which we try to reproduce that, right, yeah. And this would be, I mean, like TQ is mostly comes from the specific heat TQ, which is a quantum phenomena, right. So but here we are mostly interested in the classical regime, and you would expect that like at high temperatures maybe the classical thing is fine. Okay, so now I'll just talk on some recent theoretical work on which is kind of related to what I am going to talk about. So this is a paper by the group of Nagel, and what they look at is they take soft spheres and looked at configurations which are very close to the jamming configuration. Okay. So then you look at these configurations and do some energy minimization, and around the minimum energy you do a quadratic expansion, find the quadratic Hamiltonian describing such systems, and then just find the normal modes, the normal eigenvalues and eigenfunctions, and look at their structure. Okay. So now for in this harmonic description of a jammed solid, basically you can compute the thermal conductivity from some formula like this, which basically is like you can think of it as kinetic theory, but also it follows from Green-Kubo formula, okay, which gives conductivity in terms of current correlations. Okay, so here you have a specific heat which for classical systems is just kb. This is what what one would call the diffusivity. So it's something so sort of like velocity times mean free path of the heat carriers. And then this is as the density of states. Okay, so this gives the conductivity of a system. So you just want to calculate the diffusivity of different frequencies, which you can calculate once you know all the normal modes and the wave functions and the eigenvalues. Okay, so in this paper what they do is basically they compute the diffusivity, and they look at two cases. One is they call it the stressed solid, and the other the unstressed solid. So you can think of one is like pressure 0 and one is non-zero pressure, and this is what the diffusivity looks like. Okay, so like I said, diffusivity is like roughly velocity times mean free path. Velocity is more or less constant at least at low frequencies. So you can just think of it as representing the mean free path. Okay, so if you look at this plot, so this, I mean, typically you will have transmission or diffusivity over the, so there is some density of states and there is some maximum dBi frequency for this solid. So this is, you measure the diffusivity in that range, and what you see is, okay, so these plots are for different packing fractions. Okay. So as you go to close to the transition, like the jamming transition, then this plateau region extends, and for smaller packing fractions, you have this sort of turnover. Okay, and at low frequencies, what here what you get is a 1 over omega to the power 4 behavior. Okay, which is basically, so if you look at mean free path if you just do Rayleigh scattering, you will find that for a disordered solid you get a mean free path of 1 by omega 4. Okay, so this is supposed to be that. Now for the stressed solid, this is what you get. So here you don't get this 1 over omega 4 divergence, and so that's one difference. Okay, so so one of the main findings is this difference between the stressed and unstressed systems. And the other thing they also looked at is looking at like how many modes are localized and so on, because this is a disordered crystal and you expect localized modes, and what they found is that there is a very small fraction of localized modes. I think around 5% or 10% of modes are localized. Okay, so now what does this mean for thermal conductivity? Okay, so in this paper they don't really compute the thermal conductivity, they just plot these quantities. So now if you look at this, there is a problem in this case, because the density of states at low frequencies goes as omega square, and then you will get a divergence at low frequencies. Okay, so because the low frequency phonons have very long wavelengths, so therefore you will get a diverging thermal conductivity. Okay, so in this case presumably you will get a finite thermal conductivity. Okay, so that's the main conclusions of this are sorry, are long wavelengths. Yeah, because in this case wave number is not a, I mean it's not a good I mean like a label, I mean, so it's, but if you, for example, okay, I don't know, if you, okay, not in this model I don't know, but in some other models if you look at low frequency modes, they really look like plane waves. Not in this, but okay, I will show another example which actually we
there are some, but it's all mixed up.
there will be low frequency modes which which are extended, of course, definitely. I mean all these modes are extended, the diffusive modes are all extended. That's what I said, the localized modes are very few, like 5 to 10% modes are localized in this model. But even the extended modes may not look like plane waves. Okay, so I will just show some pictures of what I mean by that. Okay, so then there is another work which actually we did in 2010. So in this is a much simpler model. It's just a cubic lattice, and you have particles with the scalar displacement fields, and you make their masses random. Okay, so and then you can look at you can do things very in quite detail. So you can look at things like transmittivity. You send a plane wave and how much transmits across it, and you can also calculate the diffusivity in the same way as in the previous example. You can look at density of states and localization and so on. So we did a very detailed study in this case, and what you find in this case is again the thermal conductivity. So this is so you do a simulation. You take the solid, apply heat baths at the two ends, and calculate how much current goes through, and then from that you calculate the thermal conductivity. What you find is that the current goes as 1 by n to the power 0.75. Okay, so it's not 1 by n. So so therefore the thermal conductivity diverges as L to the power 0.25. Okay, which you can understand just from this Rayleigh scattering 1 by omega 4. If you just do a simple calculation, you can understand this divergence. Okay. So a disordered, I mean this simple model with just random masses and sitting on a nice lattice, actually shows divergent thermal conductivity, and so sort of the same features. So this is again kind of diffusivity as a function of omega, and it's not very clear, but you see this 1 by omega 4 divergence at this is in for a 3D crystal. I mean 3D. Sorry.
N to the quarter and L to the quarter is not the same unless it's in one dimension. You said because of n minus 175, they come like N to the quarter, but in the line you write L to the quarter. It's not the same here.
Or this n is same as L. I mean n is L.
So
And this n cube is the actual number of particles. Sorry, yeah.
N is N cube.
N
It's
is
the limit that N goes to N cube.
yeah, in the limit n goes to L cube, right? Yeah. Okay. Okay. So this is what we see in this very simple model. Okay, and the other case that we studied actually is a pinned solid. I mean, where you cut out the low frequency modes. Which are actually responsible for this anomalous transport, okay, because the low frequency modes are really look like plane waves. So if you cut them off, then you actually get a 1 by n dependence of the thermal conductivity, you get Fourier's law, okay, but that's not very realistic. Okay, then I want to talk about another work which is a more recent work and is also very similar to what we do. This is again so they look at a kind of Lennard-Jones, not a Lennard-Jones, I think the attractive term is not there, just repulsive part of the Lennard-Jones gas. It's a binary mixture, and they vary the size ratio of the particles so that they can go to the case where all particles have the same mass, same size, which is where you expect a crystal and so on, and then if you make them different size ratio, then you get a glass. And they measure the thermal conductivity using Green-Kubo equilibrium simulations, and this is what they get. Okay, so actually you should look at this curve and not this. So this is thermal conductivity versus temperature, and what these different curves are for different size ratios. So this is lambda equal to 1, which corresponds to a crystal, and so this, as you change the temperature, it at some point presumably it crystallizes, and then the thermal conductivity rises with lower as you go to lower temperature, because anharmonic effects go down, and then eventually you expect it to become infinite really, right. And as you put in disorder, then you get sort of this saturation in thermal conductivity. Okay, so right now it's not clear if something special happens out here. Okay, so this is this, they do something like they want to do introduce quantum effects, so they just take this data and somehow get this, but I mean I would really want to focus on this. Okay, so they also looked at things like I mean how this heterogeneity in elastic properties and density of states and localization and things other that like that. Okay, so these are some of the studies which we could find in the literature on the kind of questions that we want to ask. So what we do is basically a more detailed study of a heat transport in a model glass former, a Lennard-Jones mixture. So we study heat transfer in this Cobb-Anderson model. So the model is like you have two kinds of particles in a ratio 80:20. And they are interacting via this Lennard-Jones pair potential, and the parameters are this. So this is a very standard set of parameters which a lot of people use in various work. It's known to give a nice glass. Okay, and I think some there's this Vogel-Fulcher whatever law temperature which is around 0.3, and then there's a mode coupling temperature which is around 0.435 for this model. Sorry. Okay. This is the third name, right? Vogel-Fulcher, Taman. Okay, right. Yeah. So that's what I was missing. Okay. So now we take this system and basically calculate the thermal conductivity in 3 different ways. Okay. So the first is just you do non-equilibrium simulations. You take this system, apply heat baths, measure the current, and then compute the thermal conductivity, and then do it at different temperatures. Okay, so so there's some average temperature of the system, and then we apply a very small gradient, okay, to set up a current. The second way is just use Green-Kubo method, which you calculate these correlations in equilibrium and relate it to the thermal conductivity. So this is without heat baths. You take an isolated system and you just calculate this. So this is NVE. And then the third thing we do is actually supposing you are at very low temperatures, then you expect it to be in one of these minima. So you do some, so you take your system to a low temperature, you do some energy minimization and find what is the, what minima it belongs to, and for that minima you find you expand it, the potential around that minima, and find the quadratic Hamiltonian describing it, and for that quadratic Hamiltonian you can do a sort of numerical calculation of the conductivity, which is basically doing this, but not through a simulation, but through but doing a numerical calculation. Okay, so what I'll do is basically tell you about all this, what small set of results we have about on this. Okay, so some details of the simulation are, so typically what we do is we equilibrate the system for some time, like you have heat baths at both ends at the same temperature, and you wait for some time it equilibrates, then you apply a small gradient, and then you run the system for some long time, and you throw away like half of this runs and do an averaging over the remaining half time. And typically dimensions we have looked at is like 5, so it's a slab with cross section 5 square and size 100. That's the direction in which heat is flowing. Okay, and we have done some checks on like convergence with change in system size and so on. Okay, so this I have already said, and we look at the average temperature is that we look at is ranges from in these ranges, and we do like lots of different quenches to this whatever temperature we want to look at, and what we find is actually there are very small sample to sample fluctuations in thermal conductivity. Okay, so this is again basically the setup that we have. So for some reason what we do is we have some heater at the center, and we put these cold things with periodic boundary condition at the two ends. Okay, so heat is flowing like this also and like this also. Okay, this is not, I mean, it's just a convenient thing to do in simulations. And this is what the temperature profile in the system looks like. So average temperature is around 1, and then there is a small gradient, 1.05 at this end and 0.95, and this is what the temperature. So you can measure that temperature at each point, and this is what you will find. Okay, so the fact that there are small jumps at the ends means that you are already in the thermodynamic limit. And this is you can also now measure the thermal current at various positions in this slab. And so this is just a check that things are okay, that you measure the same current everywhere on these two slabs. Okay, so this is how we do the measurements, and let me show the, okay, no, so this is the non-equilibrium thing, and let me just say what we do in the harmonic case. So like I said, we expand the potential around whatever minima it has settled to. So we have a quadratic Hamiltonian. From this sort of Hessian matrix we find the eigenvalues and eigen functions, and from that there is some prescription to calculate this diffusivity. Okay, so this is again the conductivity in terms of diffusivity, specificity and density of states, and once you know this Hessian matrix you can calculate that for any given structure. Okay, so there is some prescription which I want to. So the thing I wanted to say is that if you look at like this, so you have diffusivity at each frequency, right? So now you can also, supposing you just look at the eigen modes at each frequency, then typically what you will find is that they look something like this. So this is for again the harmonic crystal that I had talked about, not about this system. So in that system you will find that there are some modes which look like plane waves. There are some which I call diffusive, but they are kind of random but still extended, and then there are these localized modes. Okay, so these are the three kinds. So these don't conduct heat. This and this conduct heat. This one is like diffusive, so the transmission scales as 1 by n for this modes, and this one is like ballistic. Okay, so these modes are would lead to anomalous heat transport, while these modes would lead to diffusive heat transport. Okay, so here are the results from the NEMD non-equilibrium molecular dynamics simulations. So, so here basically I am plotting the conductivity as a function of temperature Okay, so the blue line and the black data points, they are from the NEMD simulation. The red line is from Green-Kubo equilibrium simulations, which still have not been done out here. Okay, and so they are of course matching quite well, and so the T naught is somewhere around here, and maybe there is something. Okay, so there's I mean, so it's not very clear now, but maybe something is happening, right? I mean, there's a sort of kink. So this is something we need to really examine more carefully. But right now it looks at least there's something happening at this temperature. Okay, here what I show is what we get from this Green-Kubo calculation. So I should say that this is still not completely. So what we are trying to do is actually trying to do the Green-Kubo and the Hessian calculation and try to make sure that everything is fine. But right now it looks like this. So the thermal conductivity you get from the harmonic approximation is much lower than what you actually get from the direct simulations. Sorry? So I said that TMCT is 0.435 and T naught is 0.3. Out here this is around 0.3, 0.4. I mean, it's, I wouldn't say this is very right now.
Is it because you can't equilibrate and then the structures you are looking at?
It's possible. I mean,
you are not sharing. But the structure itself is something.
Yeah, but like if you look at temperature profiles and everything is very, I mean, like it's this completely fine. Okay, it's like sorry. Oh yeah, I'll come to that, right? Yeah, I'll come to that. So the other thing is like if you look at the temperature profiles, I mean at all, so this is one I've just scaled by the mean temperature, and all of them look very smooth. So it looks like things have equilibrated in that sense at least. At least the local temperatures are kind of well defined. Okay, at even very small temperatures. Okay. Okay. So the main thing we see is possible kink around this. Okay, results right now but this is still very preliminary. I mean, results from harmonic approximation give a smaller value of kappa. So maybe if you really go to very low temperature, they will meet. Okay, so one thing one always has to worry about these systems is finite size effects, and we believe that they are kind of small because you don't see this temperature jumps at the end. Okay, so this is something I mean that Shrikant just mentioned. So right now what we are doing is it's a kind of very fast quench. Okay, so we just take from a high temperature, bring it down to low temperature, equilibrate for some time, and try to find the minimum minimum energy configuration. Okay, so if you do that and if you ask what is the minimum energy that you reach as a function of temperature, it looks something like this. Okay, so this you can compare with some results that Shrikant has had obtained I mean way back in 98, where he looked at the same thing, except that he was doing it at some finite cooling rate, this whole process, and at each temperature he was finding what is the kind of corresponding energy minimum configuration, averaging it over different realizations, and what he got is that for I think the fast cooling rate you get something like this, which is similar to this except for this funny thing out here. For slower cooling rates you go down and down. So, so now obviously an interesting question is if you, so this E naught is basically this energy, right? I mean the bottom of, I mean what is the minima that I reach, and what you find is that if you cool at slower rates you reach lower and lower values of the A. So an interesting question is like this energy and this energy, do they, I mean will they have the same thermal conductivity, right? I mean you might expect this is more stiff in some sense. So that's one question that probably we'll look at. Also, how do things look on waiting times, cooling rates, and so on. Okay. 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 So then we also looked at this diffusivity in this harmonic limit, and in this case again you don't find this 1 over omega 4 divergence. So this is different from what this Nagel. So this I would say it's basically like a finite pressure system. Does not show this 1 over omega 4 divergence, while if it's at 0 pressure, then you get this divergence. Okay, so which is good, which means that this has a finite conductivity, and you can so things are well controlled. Okay, so okay, I guess I am before time, but anyway, so let me just make the concluding remarks. So basically it does not show any dramatic changes near the transition point, unlike times corresponding to viscosity, but we need to, there is some kink which we want to examine more carefully. Okay, so now why is it that things I mean the heat conductivity is not such a great EA. So the reason one possible reason is that see for, I mean, so I should I just want to point out one example of a disordered harmonic chain. Okay, so this is a very simple example which I think at least to me it's sort of useful to think of. Okay, so supposing I just take a disordered chain like this, masses are random, and I put a heater at one end, right, and so heat is flowing this way. Okay. So now, so if you do this experiment, what you will find is that it's very hard to thermalize this system, okay, but it's a very good conductor. Okay, and the reason is that the heat is being carried by a lot of modes, but the low frequency, in this case, the low frequency modes are the most important ones, right. So the heat current is actually getting major contribution from very low frequency modes. While if I look at something like equilibration, let us say if I look at velocity square average, this is getting contributions from all the modes, okay, both the localized and delocalized modes. Okay. So I would find that it's very hard to equilibrate this system, okay, but I can measure its thermal conductivity, it's a good conductor and so on. Okay, so the modes that are responsible for equilibration and the modes which really contribute to conductivity are different, and maybe that's why. So basically one needs to so that's so maybe that's the one explanation that I have. Okay, so the other things, it's, I think it's still an interesting, I hope people are convinced that still there are interesting questions. I mean, like you can, I mean, how do you differentiate between all these different minimas, right? I mean, so for example, they would all have the same specific heat. Okay, so equilibrium properties are not good to measure, to differentiate between these minima. But if I look at something like conductivity, maybe it's different. Okay, so that's something I guess one doesn't know, right? And probably it's an interesting question. And then these questions like, is there, I mean, if you wait for some time, does the thermal conductivity change, and does it depend on cooling rates and so on? Okay, so then so there is this one other interesting question. I mean, does a disordered harmonic system have finite thermal conductivity? Okay, so we saw that in some situation it doesn't, and actually there is a very interesting discussion in this book's Theory of Solids by Zeeman, where he basically again looks at this question like at very low temperatures you expect that anharmonicity is not important, and then the main source of scattering of heat carriers is disorder, right? But then if you do this Rayleigh scattering theory, which is good at low frequencies and weak scattering, then you get a 1 by omega 4 dependence for the mean free path, which leads to a divergence of the thermal conductivity. Okay, but so then what? So what is the resolution? I mean, is it really true that thermal conductivity, you can't define thermal conductivity for systems at low temperatures and they actually diverge? So what he suggests in this book is that at low temperatures, actually, I mean, somehow this in anharmonicity there are these two kinds of process, a normal and Umklapp. Okay, and Umklapp really leads to thermal conductivity, right? But what he suggests is that at low temperature somehow these normal processes do something which is not very clear, but they somehow manage, and along with disorder and this normal processes somehow conspire to give finite conductivity. Okay. Sorry. No, so for Umklapp or normal process you need anharmonicity, right? So at very low temperatures, umklap is very much suppressed, right? But the normal processes are less suppressed. So somehow, usually the normal processes won't give you any thermal conductivity. But if you combine with disorder, then it can still give a finite thermal conductivity. So that's what he argues. Okay, but it's I think it's a question that's not ever been settled. Okay, so that's I think sort of an interesting question. And so as far as this work is concerned, I mean we still need to do more careful comparisons and and this is work in progress, and hopefully we'll have something interesting to say in the next meeting that Somriddhi organizes. Thank you.
I guess in terms of the differences that we find,
No, say again.
in terms of the differences between NEMD and green Kubo results that we find.
No, so there it's the kind of same, right? For this one you are saying, right? Yeah.
So there are a couple of things. One is that the heat capacity
Yeah.
that you have in an aging system is time dependent, right? And I think one has to be
It's
also.
not doing this time space. It's quenched to this temperature 0.1, it doesn't move. So
Yeah.
Hessian and the other should be banged up. They can be different. It is close to harmonic.
Yeah, so then you don't have this because at very low temperatures anyway it's not aging or doing anything, right?
Well, but you are scanning temperatures.
Right, yeah. So in this range it's in this.
We had a discussion yesterday, and I don't think it should be called like this.
Which one?
The Greek term.
No, right now it is this. I mean there might be, that's what I said, there might be problems.
Those temperatures we don't expect the harmonic rate.
You don't even expect the harmonic. So but what is surprising is that
No, 0.1 might be okay.
Yeah, I'm saying there's a huge rate. Huge difference.
difference. But what is still surprising is the fact that the conductivity is actually higher, or so much higher, right?
Because so the green curve is evaluated by
In the harmonic,
in the harmonic.
assuming it's in the one way, yeah.
Did you
So
average over realizations?
sorry, yeah. This is 32 realizations, I think, right? 32.
No, but also if you do want to do something like that, how exactly do you take care of the cross terms?
Jumping between, right? Yeah. So around these temperatures, I mean you would imagine that there's a lot of crossing between the minimas, right? But that seems to significantly increase the conductivity, because I mean which is surprising, I thought. I don't know. I mean what do you expect? I mean
No, at least the heat capacity will increase a little bit.
yeah. No. So the whole calculation would break down anyway at that in this region. So this should really be good at somewhere here, which yeah.
Now, let me just comment about one of the points that you are very hopeful about, which is the dependence on which minimum I am, the dependence on the realization. I think this is a red herring. And the reason it's a red herring, of course, in a finite size system, you'd find a big distribution of your heat conductivity depending on the realization. This becomes smaller and smaller when you go to larger and larger systems, and in a thermodynamic limit it will disappear, it will be sharp. We know this very well because a similar question can be asked about the Schlier models, which also is computable from the eigenfunctions, eigenvalues of the Hessian. And you find that if you take a small system, different realizations, there's a big distribution, wide distribution, and then when you go to larger systems, it becomes a delta function. So I predict that in the thermodynamic limit, the question is meaningless.
So I mean, what I would think is that if I look at minimas around the same energy, then what you say is probably valid. But if I look at widely separated,
Anyway, you have to look at the average over all these realizations.
But,
conclusion about thermodynamic limit. The thermodynamic limit is self-averaging. So, I mean,
You may have some tails, power law tails. In that
what?
case,
Of the heat
Some number.
activity? No, it's going to go to a number. The distribution is
it
going to
depends on the
go to a
distribution.
I bet.
right? Yeah. So
You can show that the energy itself depends on from which temperature you are quenching.
and the cooling rate.
If you quench from very high temperature, then you get one set of minimum.
Yes?
If you quench from low temperatures may different.
Exactly.
Will the thermal conductivity be different between these?
Maybe, but I'm saying that as a function of the system size, it's going to go to a number. On the same protocol, the function of system size is going to go to a number.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, but for different.
Of course, different protocols, you get different materials.
Yeah.
They're going to be different. This is what, was found in that, in this
Yeah,
experiment.
that's what I mean.
Sure, exactly. But now if you do this as a function of system size, you discover that eventually
You're saying some sort of self-averaging.
Of course. It happens in all the measured protocols, even in the disordered system, in the Glasser systems.
Okay, so that would mean okay, so it should.
System size dependence is most crucial. Now we have to remember, we do all these numerics in compound systems, so in ridiculously small systems compared to experimental systems. Ridiculously small. 500 particles, 1,000 particles, million particles, still, minute. So you always have to think about the thermodynamics,
yeah.
then many issues are washed out. That's just a problem.
Okay.
One comment, there's a spin system analog of this calculation. I don't know whether it's been done, but there you might be able to do much bigger system sizes.
But spin system with what dynamics? I mean, not.
I'll tell you, just too technical, I'll tell you.
Okay, I mean, not. Okay, like you have to have energy conserving.
A spin system in the glass situation.
Freud says D.
Yes.
So yeah, okay, you're right. Yeah, that one could do, I guess. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
So there's this picture that people often use to describe low temperature properties of glasses. It's two-level systems.
Right. Yeah.
So I suppose those also should enter into the thermal conductivity. They could scatter.
But that's kind of also a bit quantum description, right? I mean, which should not. Yeah. I mean, that's important for explaining some of the experiment, like those.
Heat capacity, low temperature.
Right. Yeah. At the low temperature features of glasses, I guess.
Not in communism. Communism doesn't exist. It is quantum. If it exists.
No, but I mean,
It's one of these urban legends. Nobody has ever explained what it is.
Right. Yeah. It's very hard to understand. What?
Say, let's assume there exists, and then
now two-level systems, quantum calculators have been invoked for looking at heat capacity anomalies at very low temperature.
very low temperature. where
Right,
quantum
yeah.
effects are crucial.
But you can have two-level systems contributing to the heat
No.
capacity in a classical
No.
way. I'm sure in this amorphous systems also there are clusters that can be more or less included. I think
Okay.
people have looked at two-level transitions classically. Whether
Okay.
anybody's going to calculate the heat capacity, I don't know. But
You have your exact expressions. As a low temperature, SCR expression should be exact. There's nothing. It's sufficiently low temperature. I mean, if you want to understand how it goes from zero, you
Yeah.
just want the two level systems doing quantum systems.
limit of the maybe we can have this discussion over tea, over coffee or tea.
But before we go for coffee or tea, so let's thank Akshay.
Yes, let's thank you.
And somebody has, yes.